Who wants a pot of coffee? I just made coffee. You want a cup of coffee? Sure, there you go. Who wants coffee? Anybody else want coffee? Who wants coffee?
And now it's time for the man with the caffeine, the new tropics for the brain. It's Coffee with Mike. Hang in, hang tight, grab your cup, and let's get this thing started.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Java Chat. Coffee with Mike here, and today I get to sit with somebody who's a specialist in another part of the marketing realm, which is public speaking. I've had other guests that talk about it, but I've never had a guest that actually does it. And so today I get to talk with Ronny Leber. Ronnie, thanks for coming and sharing some time with us on Java Chat.
Thank you, Mike. I'm very happy to be here with you, and I'm absolutely thrilled.
Yeah, so are we. Trust me. Me and the crew were kind of talking about this actually before we got this rolling. We're just like, this ought to be really interesting because speaking live or being a speaker, there are a few gurus here in the States that are follow my system and you can become a great speaker, so on and so forth. But you don't really see a lot of people doing it. And what most people don't realize is that public speaking is actually a very necessary part of business, because if nobody's talking, nobody's listening, nobody's buying. Is that pretty fair assessment?
It's pretty fair to say that. And I'm going to tell you, not just speaking per se, but also the use of your voice. Like, it's something that we do every day in every conversation. But so many of us actually train our voice and train our way to, our ability to speak. And it's so important because everything you do, and also, for example, in any job that you are and how much you're getting paid, all of that depends on how well you are as a communicator.
Yep.
And
Absolutely.
I mean, this has a huge upside to actually be a great communicator.
Absolutely. Most leaders are actually very good communicators. So first section of our show, we always like to talk about who are you, where you're from, and how did you get to where you are today. So take us back to the days when little Ronnie was was just getting in his hands into things. How did that start? Where are you from? And because I'm sure some people are going to get a kick out of where you're actually at right now.
Well, I'm at, and also I'm from here. I'm from Vienna, Austria, in the center, the heart of Europe. And well, I grew up here as well. And also how I actually got to where I am today, I think basically it started with one simple question. And the question that I actually was asking myself is, hey, after I got done with my studies, I studied at university, I studied sports, and also studied economics. And
that's an interesting mix.
No, it was actually two different studies. So
okay. I was going to say, how do you do that at the same time?
No, it was two different universities even. Like I studied economics, and then I thought, hey, sports, I love to do sports. That would be interesting. And so I just started to do that out of a passion.
Cool.
And the amazing thing was that I just asked myself that afterwards was, hey, what do you want to do now with your, now that you're done with university, or basically that you're getting done in a few months, like, what do you want to do now? Because I was always working next to my studies. And so, but I also knew that this is kind of like my experimental time, like my play time, where I'm just like trying different things. And I did, for example, work in sales for a few years. I did door-to-door sales. Wow. I was at 3,000 people's homes, and it was very, very fascinating and interesting. And as long as the learning curve was high, I thought, wow, that's fantastic. But then there came a time and I thought, okay, now I've been there, done that, what's next? And then I actually was teaching people for some years. I was actually, during my university studies, I was teaching unemployed people for several years. And that was also a fascinating learning, and also how to do that, and how to actually pass on knowledge and content. But I also knew, okay, this is at least not in this field. I don't want to stay like working with unemployed people.
Right.
So what do I want to do? And I was always interested in many things. And I'm sure that your listeners, that there are quite a few out there that are also interested in various things.
Oh yeah.
And like, oh, this sounds interesting, or this could be interesting, or maybe I could do this.
Yeah.
And so there are a lot of possibilities. But the question was, okay, what is it that I really want to do, that not just after 1-2 years when the learning curve is gone, that I'm like, okay, what's next? Like, what is it that I really, really, really want to dive deep into? Because I also knew that in order to actually to get paid, in order to move ahead and to create something, I needed to do something, like I needed to be an expert in something.
Yeah.
I needed to stand for something. Because I also knew that if you just know a little bit of that, a little bit of that, a little bit of that, and like from different areas, then maybe you are a good candidate for Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, but you're not gonna be like, nobody's gonna pay you for that, no company. And so I thought, well, okay, so what do you want to be an expert in? And then the next thought was, how about being an expert in something that I'm really passionate about? That sounds great, but what is that?
Yeah,
Like,
right.
what am I passionate about?
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
I really mean passion, not just interested. There's a big difference between
yeah.
being interested in something or being passionate about something. Because passionate, where you really have to fire burning, where you know, whatever happens, you're also gonna do this. Basically, you would do this for free because you love doing it.
Yeah.
And when you do something that you're passionate about, you're gonna get better automatically. Because it's something that juices you up, and you're just gonna love doing it.
Yep.
And then, and I was actually, when I was thinking about that, let's take the money game out of the equation right now for a moment. Let's not worry about, can I earn money in this field? Let's first worry about, or think about, what is it that I'm passionate about?
Yeah.
And then figure out the money thing later.
Sure.
And so, because I also thought, if I know what I'm passionate about, I'm going to be good at it. And not just good at it, because I'm going to grow. I'm going to naturally grow. I'm going to get better at it. And if you're the best in something, or if you're the best in the world in something, there's always going to be a way to get paid.
Sure.
And so then, but well, okay, but what is it? What is it that
you're still at the what?
Yeah, I still didn't know what the what is. So I thought, okay, great. So I started asking myself some questions. I started asking myself questions like, and I did that, the process for weeks and months, to be honest. It was back in 2008. And I was asking myself, well, okay, what do I love to do in my spare time? What do you love to do in your spare time? What did you already, when you were a kid, focus on? Like, what engaged you? What is juicing you up? Also, when I was a little kid, what was juicing me? What do you talk with your friends about? What do you spend your money on?
Right.
All those questions I kept asking myself over and over again. And basically, it always came back to the same answers. And I did this for weeks and months. And it always came back to, even back then when I was a little kid, I was already amazed by events that bring the whole world together. Events like Olympic Games, like Soccer World Cup, or like, for example, if you go to a concert.
Oh, yeah.
And you're there and you're totally in it. You're totally focused on what's going on.
Yep.
And you just love being there. You just juiced and you're in the zone.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I thought, wow, that's beautiful. I would love to do something like that. Or like, I would love to work in an environment like that. I didn't even know what, but I was like, okay, I want to do something in that environment. And nobody back then was talking about, or I didn't have in my mind to be a host, to be a speaker, to be in entertainment in any kind of way, because like, who does that? That was not in my box of thinking.
Right.
I mean, I studied economics. I studied sports. I didn't study how to be a great presenter or a great talker or something. And well, but and so the moment I had my why, I had my drive, I had my passion, like to work in an environment where people come together and where the whole world comes together, then I thought, okay, what could I do? And initially I thought, well, maybe something like maybe sports marketing or sports management or something like that.
Sure.
That could be fun.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
then somehow, also around that time frame, a professional soccer team from Vienna actually approached me because they were looking for somebody for their youth teams once a month on a Saturday afternoon, just to host like 1 or 2 games for a little bit of wild money of their youth teams,
Sure.
to do some announcements, to play some music. And I thought, yeah, sure, that's fun. Like it was just for fun.
Sure.
And 1 year later, in 2009, I actually, that was a fun story, actually, to be honest. It was on the 25th of June, 2009.
Right.
I'm sure you remember the day. It was the day when Michael Jackson died.
Oh, wow.
And so I'm sure you remember when that was, or where you were.
I do now. Yeah. Now that you mentioned what the date is, yes, I do.
Yeah, and I remember exactly as well. And I mean, I was there. I was on that. It was nighttime, our time, and I was on a university party. And I remember I left at like 5:15 in the morning. The sun was already up, and a colleague of mine who was working at a professional ice hockey team in Vienna at the time, and I was when we were walking out, we left at the same time, and I was like, "Hey," I mean, you know how it is, like 5 o'clock in the morning, and like, "Hey, are you by any chance looking for a new stadium host at the hockey team?" And she was like, "I have no idea. I'm gonna ask." And then calling me, and she's like, "Hey, you know what? We're looking for somebody." I was like, "Oh, great. Okay, very cool." And then I had a few talks with the manager, and and then the manager said, "Okay, you're gonna get your chance." And the funny thing is, the first game of this ice hockey team that I ever saw live, I was announcing and doing the music.
Oh, jeez.
It was like a total Hail Mary.
Boy, is that when you got to do everything at once.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that, and you have never been to any of their games.
Oh, exactly. You know,
Like, I mean, I've been to 3 ice hockey games live before in my life. Like I was once in the NHL and twice at the World Cup, at the World Championship, but that was it. And of course, I've seen several ice hockey games, but mostly NHL on TV. The Austrian league I never followed before that. And like, seriously, I had to learn what teams are playing in the league.
Sure.
And of course, I had to learn who the players in the team, are, and so on. And since the season before was already over, I had no opportunity to go there and to look how they were doing it or what they were doing.
Right.
I had no idea. But anyway, I mean, I was willing to learn, and I was willing to learn fast.
I was gonna say, you probably had to learn that one real quick.
Oh yes, and I was sitting down with the fan clubs and like, hey, and telling me about it, and like presenting some concepts, but also listening to them what is important for them, what do they want, what are their needs, and basically that's how it all started. And that was back in 2009, and now we are at the end of 2021, and 5 million people that I've entertained live later on 5 continents. So it's been a while, and it's been a beautiful ride.
It's been a minute for sure. That whole experience, when, and this is for anybody, entrepreneurs, when they finally find that place in that zone and they can figure, you had the what, and then all of a sudden you figured the where, and then the why was already there. The why was already there. You knew this is just, you just wanted to do this, period. How did that feel as you were meeting with the fan clubs? And obviously you got to meet the players as well, but how did that feel as you were going through this progress of learning? I mean, there had to be some times where it's like, oh, this is overwhelming. And sometimes that's good and sometimes it's not. But how did you get through all of that?
What was beautiful about it is that I loved the process. I loved learning. I loved growing. I loved going through it. And I like immediately when I had this opportunity, I treated it like an opportunity. I really went all in. I was like, okay, I'm going to do everything I can to make something out of that. For example, when I got the notice that I was going to be the stadium host, I immediately booked a speaker's education. like where you got your voice training, where you got like also how to pronounce things, where do you set breaks. It's like for 14 months, I was every week on one-on-one classes. I was practicing every day to develop my voice, to develop also how to talk, how to articulate several things, how to actually adjust the melody and the tone of your voice, all those kind of things. I was, and of course, when it comes to music, for example, not just the fan clubs, I was going out to all different kinds of sports events, and not just sports events, but all kinds of events. And, you know, I went there not for the sports primarily. I went there to see what are those guys doing? How are they doing it? I was also later on, I was shadowing guys in the NFL, in the NHL, in the NBA. I went to the MLB. I went to all kinds of stadiums in the US. I went to world championship heavyweight boxing fights to watch what they're doing. Like I met Michael Buffer live.
Nice.
And so like, that was amazing. I was there at the rehearsal. I was there afterwards also. And it was really, really fantastic. I went to the German Soccer Federation also to see what they're doing and so on. So I've done many of those things that were not paid at all, like that, but I was just so happy to be there, and I would do it again anytime.
So the motivation was there too. It's just it sounds like the more you did, the more fire you got, and the deeper you wanted to go diving in, which is, I think is really important for a lot of entrepreneurs to understand. If you're going to go after something, and you know you've got something good, you got to go all in. You said that earlier. You have to go all in.
Dare to dream big.
And keep the dream huge. Yeah, because otherwise it's not going to be challenging enough, and you're going to get bored. And boredom is the biggest killer of entrepreneurs. The moment they get bored, it's like, all right, what else?
There are still so many things, so many dreams that I have in that environment. Like there are still so many things that I want to do, and so I'm just getting started.
And you're young. Well, compared to me, you're young. Yeah. So you have a plan, and even me, I'm not old. I've still got plenty of years left in me, but I have my dreams too. This is one of them, and I get to sit and talk with cool people like yourself. You get to a point though, like there are challenges in the midst of all of this, and you know what? Let's save that for the next section. We're gonna take a short 30-second break, you guys, and when we come back, there's this thing called resilience that gets talked about a lot, but I don't hear a lot of stories, and I want to continue bringing more of those kinds of stories, because even in the midst of all the flame, fire, and motivation, there are those days, there are those times where you sit there and go, FML, why am I doing this? And I'm sure you've got a couple of those kinds of stories, and these are things that can help explain to the listeners that you're not the only one. There are others that have gone through it and still look, here's Ronny Leber. So we'll take a quick 30-second break, and we'll be right back. And we're back here at Java Chat, Coffee with Mike, sitting here with Ronny Leber, talking about, we were just talking about his journey and how he got into presenting live, public speaking, which is, while it's a specialty in his world, it's a need for leadership. He said that in the beginning as well. It's how well can you communicate? And these are for some of my introverted friends, because communication is sometimes hard for introverts. They don't always like to talk. I mean, it is what it is, but to be a good leader, you need to be able to communicate. So as you were going through this process, learning all of these things, what were some of the things that were the walls that you might have run into as you were plowing through this process of learning?
Well, to be honest, I mean, there were many actually. And for example, with the ice hockey team, as I told you before, after the first season, they said, okay, we want to try somebody else. And I was like, okay. But I didn't give up on my dream. And, just as a spoiler alert, I eventually came back, and I was 9 seasons with the ice hockey team. So
nice.
It's not about that, but I mean, I had to step back into the second row. Like I did their farm team for some time, or like for half a season. And I mean, there are often times when you want to do something, when you want to grow, when you especially in the beginning, like everything, I wanted to have it fast. Like I wanted it to move fast, and nothing was moving fast enough.
Yeah.
And basically I was like, okay, I mean, how can we make this faster? And like, and you get a lot of rejection, like learning to deal of no or not, it's not gonna be you, or like you're, for example, the UEFA Champions League, and I'm sure you also are aware of that in the US. It's the biggest soccer
Yeah.
competition on club level.
Yep.
At the final in the Wembley Stadium in 2013, like 2 weeks before the Wembley, before the Champions League final, I got the notice from the UEFA, like, hey, right now, I would say you're in pole position to host it.
Nice.
And I was like, oh, that's awesome. Very cool. And of course, I got excited.
Yeah.
You know what happened? Nothing. Like, I didn't do it, so somebody else did it. And I mean, that happens all the time. That, for example, that you're going for something and you want to do something, like you really want to do it bad, and then it's not happening.
You know what kicks me is that when the moment you said that the team wanted to try somebody else, the first thing that hit my head was Bon Jovi's "Shut Through the Heart." I'm like, oh, that had to hurt. And then you're telling me this, and it's like nothing happens. I don't know which is worse, not knowing or knowing, and not being able to do a damn thing about it.
I mean, several things also, or like to be in the last two of hosting the Austria house at the Olympic Games, and then, but being the other one, not the one who's hosting it. Yeah. So it's fantastic, but still, like it's,
and see that, and that attitude right there. This is another thing. A lot of I've heard this and I've seen this, and then I have friends that are just like that too. When something doesn't happen, or something, you don't get, either you don't get it or you don't get what you thought you were going to get, and they still say that. It's fantastic. That's amazing. That's awesome. And I look at them, I'm like, you can't tell me you're not hurting. They're like, oh yeah, it hurts like a bitch, but you know what? It's still awesome, because next time it's going to be me.
Absolutely. And you know what? I'm sure I've been on the other side as well. Like where somebody else was like, damn, I didn't get it, but that Ronnie guy.
that Ronnie guy got it this time. Damn it.
No, to be honest, I'm not complaining, and I do not want to complain.
No. It wasn't taken as that. It's just interesting to see the mentality mindset of the world versus yourself and certain other people that I know. It's as if, well, this particular podcast is like a plea to all of those people going, please don't neg yourself out. Look at what Ronnie got through. Look at what some of the other guests have gotten through. They didn't neg out on what happened. They just kept going.
You got to appreciate. You got to appreciate what you've achieved, what you're doing, and also appreciate the process.
Yep.
And even at times, the process is not always a straight shot to the moon.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're gonna go up and down the mountain, not just up. Yep. And that's totally fine. And even though in that moment you're like, man.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's crap and it sucks. And at the same time, you're like, hey, I'm gonna grow because of that. And you get the life that you are in. It's not just happening to you. Mm-hmm. The life that you're living, it's happening for you.
Yep.
Like you need to remember that. You need to remember to appreciate the things that you have around you. And the moment that you actually exchange all of your expectations for appreciation, everything will change.
You follow the same thread that a good few very well-known figures here in the US follow, which is gratitude is everything.
Absolutely, it is. And also, I mean, to be honest, wouldn't you rather want to work with somebody who is joyful, grateful, and just fun to be around than somebody who's always bitching and like, I didn't get it. It was their fault. It was not my fault. It was because of them. But you know what? Now it's going to be different. Who wants to work with somebody like that?
I can tell you that there are situations in the world where you end up having to work with those people every once in a while, and you just look at them and go, and your life must suck. Just remind me not to come over to your house.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's really, I mean, in order to get, you will move through life a lot easier and a lot more flowing and effortless
Yeah,
if you are a blessing to be around.
sure.
And I'm not talking about doing favors for everybody and just giving yourself up. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about knowing who you are and appreciating the process and the walk of life.
That's a huge nugget right there. And again, it follows a thread that many are finally starting to really harp on. Being a blessing doesn't necessarily mean giving everything that you have to somebody else. Sometimes being a blessing is just being present, just being aware of what's going on, which you've probably even experienced on stage, just being present for somebody. Like if you're in a presentation and you might ask the audience a question and somebody starts talking, and just being there for them. I've seen it happen even with comedians. I've seen that happen where a comedian was just present and somebody just got weirdly inspired. I mean, it's odd, but it's real.
And Mike, when you're saying that and being on stage, actually it starts with being present with the audience, because that, I would say that's one of the biggest mistakes that I see with people on stage. And it definitely has happened to me as well in the past. And when you're up there, it's all about who? It's about you or your audience?
Should be your audience.
Absolutely. And the question is, where is your focus? Is your focus internal within you, or is it outside? Is it external with your audience? And basically, oftentimes what happens, and not just out of like, oh, I'm egoistic or whatever kind of things, it's oftentimes, oh, what am I going to talk about? Or like that somebody maybe who is inexperienced or like saying all those kind of things in their head. Oh, am I good enough? Or like, or maybe having some doubts or what I'm going to talk about. Do I know the topic good enough? And so on. And there's a whole dialogue going on in the head. And that moment when there's a dialogue going on in your head, where's your focus?
It's not outside. It's in your own head. Yeah, it's on you.
Absolutely. It's in your head. And basically the thing is, the moment that you're in a conversation with somebody, and being on stage is nothing else than being in a conversation with somebody. In order to serve them the best, the only way to serve them is to have a focus with them, to see and feel where are they, and to take them from place A to place B, to take them on a ride, to take them on a journey, and really to know where they're coming from, and then also taking them to where you want to take, or to where you want to take them. And this is a huge thing, because you can only do that when you're with them, when your focus is with them, not when you're concerned about, how do I look, or is my cell phone turned off, or what's coming next, or what's the next slide. That's not it. It's got to be like, who are they? What are their concerns? Why are they here? What is their emotional involvement with this topic that I'm having?
You said cell phone. I almost looked at my cell phone. I said, nope, I turned it off. I know better. I've done some presenting in the past, and everything that you're saying is exactly what I was taught to do when you're on the stage. I would literally get into conversations with people. It'd be like, I'm here to talk about whatever that subject is, but I want to know what you guys want to hear about, because obviously you're here for that subject too. Okay, cool. Anybody got any questions on the subject? And if no one talks, okay, all right, I'm going to go. If I go with this is what you're going to hear. And then I start going. And if somebody decides that they have a question afterwards, then we do the Q&A after. But I always open the floor first, because somebody might have something that might be slightly askew, and either I can answer that there, or I can say, you know what, talk to me afterwards. I'll help you out then. You already locked one person down by doing that. You've got their attention wholeheartedly because you just took a moment to acknowledge that they exist. You're up on a stage, they're down in a chair with how many ever, 50, 100,000 people, and you took a second to go, I'll talk with you. So connecting and being with them is absolutely paramount. I learned that too when I was being taught how to speak.
I want to actually take one more, or put one more thing into that.
Do it.
That is actually when you are on a stage, and oftentimes I get heard like, or I hear from people, you know, I mean, I can talk with 5 people, but when it's more than 10 or 50 or something, that's not for me, or whatever. Or there is a certain number.
They limit
There's
themselves.
a certain number in some people's heads where they're like, oh, okay, up until this point, it's cool. But when the number is higher, nah, it doesn't work. And sometimes the number is 2. Yeah. So it's whatever it is. But anyway, I hope it's not 1 for your sake. But anyway, but I'm kidding. But the point is, whatever the number is, and whatever the number in your audience, the number of people in your audience is, remember, you're not talking 1 to 50, 1 to 100, 1 to 1,000, 1 to 50,000, 1 to 100,000. You're not talking like that. You're always talking, you're always having a one-on-one conversation, just multiplied by 50, by 100, by 1,000, by 50,000, by 100,000. It's just a one-on-one conversation that you have several times. And that's the secret. That's the key to remember.
That is probably, I haven't heard anybody say it that, well, no, actually I have heard that, but it was a long time ago. And he's not around anymore. But it is a conversation. You're not supposed to talk at your audience. You're supposed to talk with them. Even though you're presenting, whatever you're presenting on, it doesn't matter. You're still talking with them, because they have to have some kind of connection to the subject. And if you're not causing that connection, I'm sure you can go deep on this too. If you're not causing a connection between their emotions and the subject matter at hand, they're going to leave empty.
Mike, think about it. I mean, just having a one-on-one conversation with someone, and I'm sure all of us have been there. All of us have been on either side of that conversation, I'm telling you. When you are talking with somebody or somebody's talking with you, and basically you can feel that this is not a conversation with each other. It's just somebody dropping what's in their head, whatever it is, dropping it to somebody else. Yeah, exactly. Like, take it or leave it.
Yeah, exactly.
And you're like, well, okay, thank you. All right, bye. That was awkward. You don't want to be that person when you're when you're standing in front of a group. You don't want to be that person in a one-on-one conversation, but especially not when you're talking to a group.
Sans networking. which is and I don't know how it is around the rest of the world, but I've been to a lot of networking groups where people need to understand networking is just like speaking. You are still having a one-on-one conversation. You're not there to sell and dump on people. You're there to communicate with them and start a relationship. Even though there may be 50 or 100 people in the room, you're going to have good conversations with some, and you're going to have okay conversations with others, and you're going to have some conversations that are going to be awkward. It is what it is. But if you're still thinking that you're there to hand out a business card, throw your pitch in 30 seconds, and then walk, you've completely missed the opportunity to make that connection as a speaker, because you're still the speaker. They're the speaker for a second. You're the speaker for a second. The question is, are you talking with or at? And it's, I think, as one
more thing. When you're having a conversation with a group of people, even though if you're the only one talking, you need to give them time to respond. What I mean by that, you need to give them time to respond in their minds. Like, you need to guide them. You need to give them space to think. It's not about drinking out of a water hose. It's really
that's
about
a class. That's a seminar. That's not a presentation.
Yeah, it is about really giving them zip by zip.
Yeah.
A glass of water at a time. and then like, okay, here it is, easy digestible, and I'm going to take you by my hand.
That's a huge thing too, because and I've seen speakers do that. They get on stage, they do their presentation, they dump, and I look at them and I go, I don't even remember what they were up there for. And then there have been, you know, it's a real good presenter as of late, and I've actually been watching some of some other speaking coaches that analyzed him as a lecturer, is Jordan Peterson, and how he presents on stage, and the mannerisms that he has, what he does when he says certain things, and he pauses in between so that he can actually give time, like you said.
That guy, right?
That guy.
I don't know, are we on video as well, or?
Yeah, we're on video. It's cool.
Yeah.
Yes, that guy. His mannerisms engage so well, and like you said, he gives people time to catch up with what he's talking about. And of course, you're going to have your dissenters and your agreeables, but it's hard to refute what he talks about, because he gets you. He's literally a philosopher, in my opinion, because his talks are on leading you to a truth, and the truths are clinically based, which is pretty phenomenal. But that's, again, as you're talking on stage. Well, let me back up a second. You're not only a performer, but you actually teach this as well. You teach and coach this, correct?
Yes.
What was the transition in knowing that other people really needed that?
Well, I mean, who doesn't need that? Like,
True.
who doesn't need to get better at communication?
True. Okay, so where did you start noticing the trend of bad communication was going on? How did that become okay, I can do this because it's needed, that moment?
Well, to be honest, I mean, you don't need to look very far to see bad communication.
Okay, fair.
Seriously.
Yep.
Like, it's actually, you need to look further to find good communication.
True. Agreed.
And so it's really about delivering value. And you know, I mean, what I'm doing is I'm helping people who want to be a host, a presenter, a keynote speaker, or for example, entrepreneurs that have a community, that need to communicate better, or maybe professional athletes or social media influencers, for example, like people that already have a community and that have somebody to talk to, and they want to be more precise with the message. They want to be more effective and more efficient in the way that they communicate. And that's where I start, and that's where I actually help them with.
Considering how short a time the attention span is now, we thought, I'm a Gen Xer. When the millennials came out, time shortened already on attention span. Now there's Gen Zs like my son, and they're even shorter, and they filter faster.
And now it's even Generation Alpha.
Yeah, that's the next one, and they're just as what's the word, intelligent and astute on a lot of stuff as they're growing up. It's interesting how humankind just evolves. You know, it sees when things are right and things are wrong, and they inherently, as youth, they can kind of look at that and go, no, that's not right, or that's cool, that could work, provided they have everything. Like with my son, if I say something that is a subject of interest, whether that, you know, whatever that may be, logistics, career, politics, whatever, in about a minute and a half, he will have research on it on his phone, already reading about it. And he will either agree with me, or he will say, I just found something on this and this is what it says. And literally we've had all out debates over certain things, but it's like, the worst thing is I'm driving, so I can't go find my research, and he's got his phone in his phone. But
you cannot even verify if it's correct, the research.
Well, yeah, because I immediately ask, what source? Where'd you find it? Okay, and in some cases it's confirmation bias. In some cases it's like, I've never heard of that one before. Cool, I'll have to go look that up myself. And he's right. A lot of times he's right, which I'm very thankful for.
How old is he?
He's 20.
Wow.
Yeah, and he actually he's an air show announcer for virtual air shows online. So I might have to connect him with you after this.
Sure.
But I think that speaks a lot to, how do I say this? It speaks a lot to people need to improve, period, on their communication.
All of us,
Yeah,
all of always.
otherwise we're not only gonna miss the boat, so is everybody else that should probably hear it too. Yelling the message from the top of the hillsides worked in the feudal days when there was a herald. You can't do that anymore. Yelling, screaming,
But
shouting.
even back then, you needed to actually, in order to be a herald, you needed to have some, like, you needed to learn that. It's not like, this is not like, oh, now you're a herald.
Here, take this piece of paper. Go say it out on the corner. Huh? and then you give it to the guy that keeps the stalls. That's about the best way I can say it without getting vulgar. Because shoveling shit can, hey, isn't that the guy why is he reading that? Anyway, so you've evolved from being a presenter to teaching, speaking, to now you're still doing both, or what is it that you're doing at this point?
I'm still a presenter. I'm still actually, just started this year on TV. COVID happened.
Right.
And so I thought, hey, I need to, like, events are not so big right now. And then I thought, hey, I got to do something else. And I always, or not always, but the last years I was kind of fascinated. Let's see how TV actually works as a medium. And so I became a presenter on TV. And so far, I just had my 1000th hour
Nice.
of being on air on television.
Congratulations.
Which is a lot of hours.
That's huge.
It's a lot of learning. It's a lot, I always call it my boot camp.
Nice.
Because I mean, in terms of talking about being a better communicator, and I've been to the TV studio today for 8 hours. I just came home actually. But you learn a lot. You learn a lot on how to communicate something, on how to talk, and how to say something. And I mean, really, there are so little slight differences on how you can frame something.
Mm-hmm.
But everything that you say has the ability to create something at your listener, to create emotions, to create a picture in their minds. It has the opportunity and the ability to take them on a journey. But of course, it can also go nowhere.
Yeah.
It can also be at a dead end.
Mm-hmm.
But the more that you know what you're doing, the more that you know how to communicate, how to say something, how to trigger emotions, the better you will become as a communicator.
I got to commend you, because I know this is not your native, English is not your native language. It's German, or Austrian, excuse me.
No, German, it's true.
It is, okay, it's German. Sometimes I run into Austrians just like, no, it's Austrian. Okay, fine. And even in Germany.
I mean, we have the Austrian German, but I mean, okay, you're from Vegas. You're not from California, but we even had a governor there from Austria.
Yeah. And I've been trying not to say anything about that, but I guarantee I'm going to get a couple comments about it in your accent, because I can hear him in you, and it's kind of like, oh, I know somebody's going to come up with that one. It's going to be cheesy too when they do it.
You cannot imagine. I was in high school in the US, and you cannot imagine how often I had to do some Arnold impersonation.
Oh, that's got to be. If you ever come to the States, I guarantee you they're going to ask you to do it too. But again, I wanted to say that I commend you, because your enunciation in English is very, very well performed. It's very clear. Your timing is good. Your pauses are on point. I'm no expert, but I'm catching everything that you're saying, and to me that's huge. My listeners will catch it too. Obviously, I have a few people that are in the speaking industry. They're going to hear.
I want to tell you something about that.
Yeah, please.
And then thank you, first of all. Thank you for actually for saying that. And every language has its different pointations, it's different melody,
Mhm.
it's different rhythm.
Mhm.
Also, it's different way of articulating something, or also when you take a break.
Mhm.
And first, when I did my speaker's education, my voice training and so on, I did it all in German.
Yeah.
And I remember, like, after months of doing this, like it was already about 6-7 months. And I thought, I was always recording myself, listening to myself. And I thought, man, this is never going to get anywhere. This is horrible. I was like, what am I doing here? Like, how? I don't get it.
Yeah.
Something's not working. But then somehow it clicked. And I progressed, and it got better and better and better. And I was like, okay, fascinating. Now it's working. But after all that work that I put into German, then I remember that I started with reading texts in English, like reading it out loud,
Mhm.
and also to transfer everything into the English version. And it was horrible again in the beginning because it was a totally different rhythm.
Yeah.
It's a different language. It's a different way of using your mouth. And I had to learn that anew. And so it's really about, like, you need to also adjust to your language.
Mhm.
And it's a lot about also to listening, like you also need to train your ear.
Mhm.
You need to train your ear and your mouth.
Yep.
Because you need to train yourself in order to listen, in order to hear what somebody else is saying and how somebody else is actually pronouncing something.
Absolutely.
And then you need to train yourself that you can do the same.
Mhm.
And obviously at the end to develop your own style, because that's what it's all about.
Yep. People get familiar with who you are as who you are. Your style of speaking, your style of presenting. Yeah.
First, know the rules, master the rules, and then break the rules.
I like that. Oh, bend them a little.
Yeah, but I mean, bend them like that. I'm coming back to Michael Buffer again.
Sure.
And those of you who are listening who are not familiar with Michael Buffer, he's the guy. He's let's get ready to. I'm not going to say it. I mean, otherwise, I'm maybe have an invoice from his lawyer or something. But anyway, he's the boxing announcer.
Yep.
And the way that he's announcing somebody, he develops his own style. And I for sure have taken on some of that when I'm announcing boxing, because I do that. At the same time, you cannot just be a copy of somebody.
Yeah.
You need to develop your own style.
Mm-hmm. Michael will always forever be remembered as the boxing announcer, even with the guys that are now announcing. And there's some good ones, don't get me wrong. No one was ever able to create what he did with that one line. I mean, everybody knew what time it was when he started saying that kind of stuff. When you have that kind of a presence, whether that's a line or a statement or just you pop in, when you have that kind of a presence that you speak, people know what time it is, that's when you know you've got it. That's when you know you have your style. And then from there, you lock it in and you hold on to it for dear life, because that's gonna get you what you're looking for. And this goes, guys, this is not just speaking. This goes for whatever you're doing as a business too. You get known for what you do well. And if you really make it yours, as Ronnie just said, your style in that business, and you lock it down, people will know what time it is when you show up. You'll be known as the so-and-so person, whatever that may be. This is the guy, this is the marketing guy, this is the SEO guy, this is the speaker guy, this is the boxing guy, this is the soccer guy. Doesn't matter. You show up in the room and your communication has already begun, because people know. It takes time to get there, but Michael nailed it. Definitely. In his field, he will always be remembered as that. Guys, we're going to take one more 30-second break. And when we come back, we're going to talk about more of what Ronnie does, where he's at, how you can get a toll, all that stuff. You guys know how this works. So we'll be back in 30 seconds. And we're back. Last section here in Java Chat, sitting down with Ronny Leber. You guys already heard what he does. I want him to go digging a little deeper into what that means. So professionally, he is a speaker. He presents. So if there's a company that's hearing this and is looking for another excellent speaker, he has a website that's down below. What are you currently working on, like right now? What's your focus?
Right now, first of all, I mean, I'm still working on TV, like several days a month or between 10 and 15 days. At the same time, what I'm doing is I'm working with people who want to, for example, create their own keynote, or who want to work on their keynote or presentation, or who want to communicate better, who want to be a presenter, like those kind of things. Or as I said before, who are, for example, top athletes, entrepreneurs, CEOs, or who are influencers, top level influencers who want to get better in communicating. Then I'm helping you if this is you. And at the same time, what I'm also doing is I'm a keynote speaker and a presenter. So that's basically it.
Cool. In your process to help people become speakers, what are some of the things that you work on with them? Besides the messaging, we know that's a part of it.
Well, I actually take a step back. I first start on what is your outcome? Like, what is your outcome is number one. And number two is, who is your audience?
Right.
Yeah, like this is like, those are the first things that you need to get clarity about. What is your outcome? What's the goal? And then who is your audience? And of course, like, why are you doing it? And then we can talk about, okay, like what is the occasion and so on, and how, like, really to break it down, and then to see, for example, if you're working on a talk, then it's not immediately like, oh, here's the structure and ABC. No, it's then like, okay, if you are supposed to talk or to give a talk at some event, what is this event? Are you the main act, or are you just one, like a side gig? Are the people there for you, or because of you, or like, are they there voluntarily? Do they need to be there? Are you their boss, or are you just like somebody who is a speaker? Do they know you? Do they not know you? How is their emotional involvement with you? Like, are they pro what you're saying, or are they contra? Like, are they against it? And so all of those kind of things we need to know first.
Yeah.
And then, in order to also, what is the time frame? Like, how much time do you have? And obviously then we need to see, okay, what is your outcome? We know that. That means, what do you want your audience to do at the end when you're done?
Yeah.
Like, what is it, what they should do, what they should feel, with what feeling you want to leave them with? Because as we know, it's not about your words. It's about how you make them feel. It's about what feeling you leave behind. And so then I actually start developing that speech together with the person, but backwards. That means, okay, what is going to be the end? What is going to be like how are you going to deliver it? What's the punchline, basically, like in a joke? What is it at the end that's going to move them? Then, okay, where are we starting out from? Like, it ties back to, who is it that is in there? The more you know about them, and you really need to know who is your audience, the more you know about them, the better you can actually address it and take them on a journey with you. Because you just pick them up where they are at. And then you have point A, that's the starting point. There you are. You know point B, that's where you want to go with them. So now it's just about filling the gap. It's about creating a structure that is in there, like creating points with stories, with examples, with metaphors, with data, and so on. And really to take them A, B, C, D, and so on. Like, really put one thing after the other to make it logical. Oh yeah, okay. To move them in a journey one step at a time.
That's awesome. That's literally, one of my mentors told me that's what philosophy is leading a person to a truth, whatever that truth needs to be.
And I mean, seriously, when we're talking about, for example, we have in Austria right now a very, very big topic about vaccination.
Of course, that's
in
every nation right now.
Exactly. And this is a topic that is dividing families, friends, people.
Yep.
And it all ties back to communication.
Yeah.
And I mean, let's look back at what all of us want. all of us want to have, again, an opportunity to live our lives like it was before the pandemic. Like, I think we can all agree on that.
Yeah.
That we all want to have some normality again. You don't need to worry about, oh, do we need a mask, do we not need a mask, and so on. Like, all of us can agree to that. And then it's about, how can we build bridges here? How can we create something, and not like divide and create canyons, but build bridges in getting people together and moving them on together. It's not about like, oh no, you're the bad guys because you're not getting vaccinated. You're the bad guys because you are forcing somebody else, and it's my freedom to do what I want with my body, and so on. It's not about blaming. It's about creating togetherness, and then finding a solution that works for everybody.
And that goes for any subject. That's a very good one to use at this point, because it is so prevalent around the world. But that goes for any subject, you guys. I mean, it doesn't matter what you're talking about. Especially if there's division and serious opposition on the subject, you got to find a way to bridge it, because the only way you get to a solution is when everyone works together. If they're separated, that's not a solution, and nobody's looking for a solution, really. If you think about it, because what one side says is right and the other one says is wrong, and vice versa, there's nothing there.
Everybody who is in a relationship knows that and has been there. Like, I mean, whether it's an intimate relationship with your spouse or with your kids, or with when it was with your parents or whatever, like, you know exactly, like, okay, if you would have addressed it this way, all right, it would have been okay, but no. You say no, for sure not. I'm not on board with that. Whatever you say from now on,
I'm out.
I'm against it.
Yep, I'm out. You already ruined it.
Exactly.
That's cool. So you literally help people figure out how to build bridges. And honestly, that's what a speaker's job is to build a bridge between the unknown and the known, the pros and the cons. No matter how you look at it, it's taking the opposites and bringing them to a common road. I like that. That's really cool. Where can people find you?
RonnyLeber.com, RonnyLeber.com. You can find me there. There's also a blog there where you can read about public speaking, and it's in German and in English, obviously. And I mean,
I've been there. All you got to do is check the English one. It comes out perfect. I enjoyed reading it. Let's put it that way. It was really
neat.
There
are blog posts on all kinds of topics on how to get a better communicator, how to increase your stage presence, how to train your voice, all those kind of things, and or how to become a motivational speaker, for example. Like, you can find blog posts on all those kind of topics. And if you want to dive deeper, or if you want to have me working with you one-on-one, then just hit the contact button and write me a message. Or also, if you need somebody, if you need a speaker, or if you need me as a host, just write me up and let's see what we can do.
Yeah, it's all good.
And are you of course on social media as well?
Yeah, I was going to say, you're on YouTube?
Yes, although I want to expand my YouTube presence.
Okay.
LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, always /Ronny Leber. And that's where you can find me.
Perfect. Now, of course, everybody, the links will be down below, as they always are. This has been cool, man. I really appreciate you stopping in and hanging out for a cup. I mean, we hit it just right, because this is the last drop.
I still got something here.
Yeah, there you go. Well, that's water. You should still have some. Thank you very much for coming and sharing your wisdom and knowledge and your story. I always enjoy hearing how people got to where they're at and how they did it, and those matter in many more ways than even the person who's speaking thinks. We always think it's a cool thing to share my story and maybe it'll help somebody. We don't always get to see it, but I can probably 99.99% say it's going to affect someone. That could be you guys that are listening. That could be a friend that you end up sending this to, which, by the way, if you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe. Hit the bell next to that subscribe button so you can see when the next premiere comes up for our next guest. If you're listening on Anchor, make sure you download or subscribe, or whatever platform you happen to be listening. We're on Spotify, iTunes, etc. leave us a review, good or bad. Listen, my thing with Java Chat is to bring you guys the best value that I can possibly find in the guests that I'm with. And sometimes people are like, why don't you just shut up and let the person talk? Okay, I try to do that more. Sometimes they're just like, hey, stay on point. Okay, cool, I'll do better to focus. This is for you guys. This is for you to be able to learn from these people who have been there, done that, bought the t-shirt and went for the second vacation, and they're still rolling. So you get to learn from them. Leave a comment, leave a review. We'd appreciate it. You got a question for Ronnie, either hit him up on his blog, drop a comment down below on the YouTube channel, go subscribe to his YouTube channel. I'm sure there's gonna be some cool stuff over there too. And follow him, connect with the man. He's there as a resource. He just offered himself up as such. So make sure you connect with him. I'll say it in Deutsch. Vielen Dank.
You're welcome.
We always thank everybody that listens. You make the time, you take the time. And these aren't short. This is about what I would call medium form, not long form like Joe Rogan. I don't know if I could go that long. And I love him for it. Trust me, it's just I don't know if I can go that long. You mean a lot to us, every one of you. It's not something where I take for granted. I don't care if this just hits one person. If it helps that one person, I've already succeeded, and that makes me happy. So stay up, stay safe, stay healthy, and live. For myself, Coffee with Mike, for Ronny Leber. Ciao for now. Perfect, my friend. As we get, hang on one second.
For more information on Java Chat, visit www.javachatpodcast.com. You've been listening to Coffee with Mike on Java Chat. Tune in weekly to this podcast for the next episode. You can also download or subscribe today on your favorite podcast platform. A production of Oasis Media Group, LLC. Located in Las Vegas, Nevada. Copyright 2019. All rights reserved.